Welcome to the Purpose Driven Mom Show, episode 391. Today, we're talking all about batching, how you can use it in your home, how you can use it in your business, and how it can help you feel less stressed out and get more things done. I love to teach the concept of batching to people because we as moms are like those Chrome tabs, right? Like 100 of them open. Our brains are everywhere. I've got to run this errand and this errand. I've got to do this thing and that thing. What if you can come up with a better way? What if you could come up with a way that would have you working smarter, not harder, running less errands, feeling more productive when you do get a chance to sit down with your home business, getting things done, and not feeling like you're just constantly doing laundry every single day? Wouldn't you like that? We're going to talk about that today. So let's start with a little definition of what batching is. I'm going to then talk to you about how to batch, and then we're going to talk about making a batch schedule. Batching in itself is the concept of taking similar tasks and piecing them together. Now, why batching works is because our brains don't want to multitask if they don't have to, right? As moms, we sometimes have to. And so I'm going to teach you two different concepts and two different ways to batch. One is by category, one is by task. But when you're putting like things together, your brain has to work less to figure out what you're doing. I'm going to give the example of errands because it's one of the ones that I stand by when it comes to batching. Now, there are seasons, especially like during the holidays, where I was like having to run errands every day, and it's so annoying. You ever get to the point where you're like, I just don't want to go to another store? This is where batching helps you. Instead of having to go to the store every single day, which you got to get in the car, you got to drive there, like go to the store, wait in line. It takes so much more time. What if you ran all your errands together, right? What if you had a time of day where you're like, this is where I'm going to go and do all of these types of things? Same with phone calls. Phone calls are one of those things that I will put off, and then I will go through and batch them all because I have to like hype myself up. I'm not very introverted, but millennial, don't want to talk on the phone, right? So I'm like, oh, if I have to make a phone call, I'm not going to want to do it. So instead, I like to put them together. Why? I can hype myself up, right? Get myself ready to go and do all my phone calls at once. And my calendar is in front of me, right? Especially the phone calls I have to make that are appointments. I'm often having to like open my calendar, figure it out. What if I did it all together? I'm going to give you an example. On Wednesday night, I wrote down one of my batch tasks was to go through and schedule all the text messages that I wanted to schedule with friends. One of the things I'm doing in 2024 is I'm taking Thursdays off, or at least one of the time blocks. I have 2 work time blocks. I decided to take one of them off so that I could just have time to do whatever I want to do. And if that's meet up with friends, if that's read my book, I don't care. But I wanted to give myself time off where I wasn't working, especially us work at home moms. Like, I feel like my feet hit the floor, I'm on, then I'm working, then I'm picking up my kid. Like, there's no stop for me ever unless I give it to myself. So I've decided Thursdays, either from 9 to 12 or 12 to 3, I'm going to take off and I'm going to do whatever I want. And I want that to be filled with people. I want them to be filled with the friends I want to meet up with and coffee dates and things that just like light me up. And I want to plan them. And so what I did was I had a list of everybody that I needed to text, to reach out to coordinate, not just for these Thursday coffee dates, but also I have some things for Girl Scouts that I had to get done. I have some like appointments I had to make, some people I had to text back. So I had a huge list of them. So on Wednesday night, I pulled up my calendar and I just went through bam, bam, bam. I was able to kind of copy, honestly, the message. Hey, do Thursdays work for you to meet up for coffee? I'd love to schedule something. Send it to whoever I needed to send it to. And no, I didn't feel like that was impersonal because that was what I wanted to send. I didn't have to retype it. And then when they were getting back to me, I was able to, schedule them out. So I'm now scheduled 4 weeks out. I know who I'm going to meet with, when it's going to happen. And if I wasn't intentional about it, it wouldn't actually happen, right? So instead of dreading, oh, I got to find my calendar. Now I got to make time. Cool. I know what appointments I need to do. All right. So I'll give you some examples so you can see what batching is. I'm going to give you an example of how I use it at work as well. And then we'll talk about how you can create it for yourself. So I batch 2 different ways when it comes to work. There are times where I prefer to batch when it comes to category. So I have a list, and we'll talk about this in the how, of all the categories in my business, right? My podcast right now, we're working on the summit, things like that. And so I like to block out and batch all my, for example, podcast tasks in one sitting, right? If I'm going to record, which I'm going to record 2 episodes today, so you're going to see me. I'm not going to change my clothes. I don't like, I'm not even worried about it. I'm just going to sit here and I'm going to record a couple episodes so I can get all the podcast stuff done in one day. During that podcast batch, I might also do some planning. I might also work on some research or editing or things like that when it comes to the podcast as well. There's also the concept of batching by task. Now, I like to do this when it comes to things that are a little more like rote and templates, where I'm using templates. I'm not sure how to say that word, where I'm using templates for it, like images. So I try to batch every image I need to make for the week together. Now, I don't make, full transparency, like all my images in my business, but there are some that I do make because they're separate products I'm working on. So I like to batch that at once. Why? Because I'm going to open Canva one time. I'm going to use the same template. I'm going to make it really fast and get done. It works for me because it's not that I have to open up the Canva and do the whole thing. So I want you to think about your life, and we're going to think about how you can batch. The first thing that I actually recommend is not so much the brain dumping of the list, but a time audit. A time audit essentially has you going through and writing down everything you have to get done by time. You could be very specific, right? 9 to 9:05, I did this, or you can say end time, I ended at 9:10, I did it for 10 minutes, things like that. What's important though is that you do know about how long something took you, because when you batch, you're going to save time if you're strategic. And this way, you know what the tasks are. A lot of times I'll tell people like, all right, what do you want to batch? And they just don't know. They're like, I don't know what I want to batch. I don't know what I need to batch. Well, if you do a time audit, it's going to tell you what you need to batch based on what you're already doing. And this is also where you're going to start to see patterns. I noticed that I ran to the store 4 days this week. I can put that together. I notice I'm doing laundry. Now, I want to talk about laundry, little sidebar here on laundry. I love the 15-minute formula where we do things 15 minutes at a time. So I do have laundry as a daily task for myself because of my personality. I know that for me, it takes me 15 minutes to fold and put away a load of laundry. I like that. If it gets to be like 4 loads of laundry sitting there, I'm going to keep procrastinating it. So based on the way I've learned about myself and my own behaviors, I schedule to do a load of laundry a day. I don't always do a load of laundry. Like I think I started a load of laundry yesterday and I had taken 2 days off of laundry because there wasn't a load to do, right? But I do have it in my schedule to start a load in the morning and fold it in the afternoon. If I don't have laundry that day, I just cross it off. If I do, I do the laundry. I used to like to batch my laundry, and this might work based on your schedule. For people who have like traditional jobs, you're not home, you know, as often, or it just doesn't work for you based on your schedule. Like there are some seasons in our personal schedule where we have sports and activities 5 nights out of the week, 4 nights out of the week. I don't want to be doing laundry every single day. So I might batch that for the weekend. So I might say, okay, Saturdays is laundry day, Wednesdays is laundry day. So I also want to tell you that there's no right or wrong here. You'll find based on the way you work, what you prefer to batch. When it comes to errands, I do like to have an errand day, but I know some people I work with who prefer to run 1 errand a day because then they're not feeling like they're running around. It's just based on you. Okay, so I want you to start though with that time audit. This will tell you what you're already doing. This will give you a really good sense of what's happening in your day. I think what you're going to find is a few things, and we have other episodes on time audits, so I'm not going to get too into it today, but this will tell you like what's working, what's not working. This will also help you figure out, hey, I really want to streamline this time block of the day, or I really want to make this work a little bit better, and I notice it's not, or this is taking me long, right? It's taking me a long time to do something. What it's also going to tell you, speaking of time, is, hey, if this takes me 5 minutes here, and it's making images for my business, can I combine all of that to shrink that time? It's really a really good way of seeing the data. Okay. So I want you to do a time on it for a couple days. And then what you're going to do is grab those highlighters and we're going to categorize. Now, there's 2 different ways I want you to categorize, and I mentioned them. The first is categorizing by type of task, the errands, the laundry, things like dusting, right? So I'm not going to pretend like I know I'm good at cleaning, right? But sometimes people like to clean 1 room a day. Some people like to do 1 task a day. So I want you to categorize by how you like to do things also, and then batch it together. So if you're like, I just want to do all my windows on 1 day, I want you to highlight in your time audit, like when you noticed you were doing your windows, or I would prefer to do 1 room at a time. We'll highlight it that way. When you're going through and looking at it, if you notice that you have times where you're answering emails multiple times throughout the day, all right, highlight every time you see it. Times where phone calls, text messages, planning, things that are just common that you can do at the same time. You're also going to want to look through and highlight things that use the same types of, I want to say software or tools. So for work, I mentioned Canva, right? So if I know that I'm using Canva for something, I want to highlight all my Canva tasks so I can get them done together. I want to highlight my planning tasks. If I know I need to use Trello for something, things like that. But you also might want to do that in your home. Batching works really well for things like meal planning. Now, this is super real time. One of my goals for 2024 is to cook 3 nights a week, like meals, like a recipe. The other nights we're doing leftovers, or like if my kids want chicken nuggets or meatballs or something that can like easily go, like a hot dog, something like that, they can pick that as well. That's our January goal. 3 times a week. We've been doing great. We're having fun with it. But what I found was in week 1, I was taking so long to cook. The recipes that I was doing were more like casserole type. So you'd have to like brown your meat and then cook your noodles or whatever, and then put it all together and then cook it for an hour. And I was like, I'm never going to cook like this. Like, this is not going to work for me. So what if instead of doing that, I batched it? And so one of the things I noticed was when I did my time audit was how often I was cooking things or prepping meals. So I asked myself, how can I categorize these together? So anytime I was doing any sort of prep for meals, that got highlighted. Now, once you've kind of analyzed what you got going on, I want you to then make like a wish list of things you would like to get done that maybe isn't getting done right now. And we can see where we can fit it in with your batches. You're going to find with batching, you're saving time, right, in your business and in your home. Now it's time to make your batch schedule. So you're going to take all these things or categories, we're going to piece them together, and we're going to look at our week, and you're going to ask yourself, where are they going to fit? Now I'm going to give you, I'll give my work example first. When you're making your batch schedule, again, you can do it by category or you could do it by type. So I use time blocking. If you're watching on YouTube, you can see my calendar behind me. This one here in the middle, it has all of my batch time blocks on it. I pre-plan them for the month. And one of my goals this month is just sticking to it, right? And I pre-plan them based on a few things. How do I decide what do I do? My energy level, what I prefer to do. I know 9 to 12 is my most productive time of day, and 12 to 3, I start to kind of like get tired, a little sleepy after lunch. So I prefer to do all my coaching calls around 1 o'clock, because after 12, I kind of at that 1 o'clock mark, I'm feeling like I just don't want to work, to be honest. I'm like, I don't really want to work. I'm done, but I can coach, I can teach, like I can show up as me. But the sitting at the computer, I'm kind of done by 12, to be honest. I go take lunch and there it is, right? And so one of the things that I have realized is anything I want to do that's like computer work, stuff like this, podcast episodes, things like that, I need to put in the morning. All right. And then from 12 to 3, I might put things that are more planning related, right? Or learning related or coaching. So I want you to think about your day in general, work, not work, and ask yourself, like, where's my natural energy? My friend Renee, she teaches cycle syncing. You could also do this based on your cycle. And that's like so in depth that we're not going to get into here, but you have ebbs and flows throughout your entire day. That 3 to 6 p.m. crash and burn. We laugh about the witching hour for kids, but it happens for our own bodies as well. And so I like to make sure that I'm putting my most productive tasks, the things that need my most energy, my most focus, things I want to do alone in my 9 to 12 block. 12 to 3 is more of those interactive things I want to do. Or again, I like to do a lot of learning then because, it's like I don't quote feel like working, but if I'm doing some learning and application, then I'm doing something. And then as my day kind of goes on, I know that my energy wanes a bit. And so I don't want to put high energy and thought tasks after that. So 3 to 6 is when I tend to batch out family stuff or house stuff, little things, cleaning, laundry, etc. And then the rest of the day just gets lighter and lighter. Now, you might not be like me, right? You are wired differently. So what is it like for you? And based on that, you can create your batches. So I will pre-plan out for my month for work in particular, and then each week things change, what types of things I'm doing. So my batches right now are based on the categories in my business in this current season. So I have a batch a week for the summit. I'm working on all things summit, but I also have a batch where I'm working on all things content creation. So I have one batch during my week where I'm just doing things like images, printables, etc. I'm working on a new printable shop. So I put all my content creation together, and I try to put that earlier in the week because I know for me towards the beginning of the week, I'm like a lot more motivated and excited. And the end of the week, I like to put some more administrative tasks. So I go through and I plan these out. Do the same for your personal life. I want you to plan out a few batch things. Every day doesn't have to be the same though. So I have an errands block twice a week. That is it. One of mine is on the weekends. One is during the week. Mondays it tends to be, which is funny because you're like, but Cara, you just ran errands on Saturday. Yes, but I like to run my errands Monday with all the stuff that my Instacart or Aldi didn't have. Like I'll go to the store Monday, I'll get it all done, or I'll do it like early on Tuesday, so that it's done for me. Anything else, it can wait. And so this way I'm only running all my errands one time. I'm getting out of the car a lot kind of annoying, but guess what? I'm done. I don't have to go anywhere. I don't have to leave. I don't have to think about going to the store. It's done. And if somebody needs something from me, then they can wait. Okay. And that's how I feel. I also put a block in there to batch out phone calls and communications. So I have a communications block. What happens during communications block? Text messages, doctor's appointments, filling out school paperwork, going through my command center, pulling all the kids' paperwork out that I've been leaving in there. Once a week, I'll go through it all. I'll fill out the forms that need to get filled out. I also do planning during the communications block, and I sit and do some planning. You can also have blocks that have to do with your home. So maybe twice a week you have cleaning blocks and you're like, I'm going to put all my cleaning tasks here. When you create a strategic schedule, you're going to find that you're saving yourself so much time because you're not constantly stop and start, stop and start, stop and start. You're putting those like-minded tasks together. Your brain is like, cool, we're in cleaning mode. And now I don't got to think about cleaning mode. And it gives your brain a little bit of closure. Because here's the thing about a lot of the tasks we do in our homes and in our businesses and in our lives, they don't end. They're very cyclical. Laundry, not going to end, right? The meals, we keep eating. And so when you're looking at things in a batched way, it signals a little bit to your brain, I've completed the goal of meal prep for the week. It's closed for now, and I can stop thinking about it for a little bit. And a little bit might be one day. You might literally be like, I do meal prep every other day. That's my batch. Cool. But then at least you have a little bit of time off because that constant brain swirl of thinking of things and deciding things and going back and forth is exhausting. And this way, you've gone through, you've stopped, you've paused, you've been like, listen, cool, errands are done for the week. I'm not going to even think about errands for a little bit of time, and your brain gets a break. It's like you can kind of shut the door on that project for a small period of time instead of the constant brain swirl of gotta do this, gotta do this, gotta do that. I hope you start to take this batching concept into your business, into your personal life for 2024. It's what I teach in all of my programs. It's what I teach people when they're starting out in new businesses. And we have the Mompreneur Roadmap. My brand new program is coming next week. So, if you want to learn how I teach batching in specifics for business, make sure you go to apurpose-drivenmom.com/dream to reality, sign up for the free workshop that we're hosting. And then we also have, ways that teach this in the Purpose Driven Mom Club. I teach this on my weekly planning. Come hang out on YouTube, on Instagram, learn these systems for yourself. So 2024 can be a year where you actually achieve your goals, because instead of feeling like you have to do everything all the time, you're strategic, you're intentional, and you can implement. Head to apurpose-drivenmom.com/podcast 391. That's where all the show notes are going to be. And if you have any questions, I'm over on Instagram. Just send me a DM at apurpose-driven mom.